welcome back to Let Us In Podcast. Today we're talking about Nightmare on Elm Street, the Freddy Krueger franchise, beginning to end, all the documentaries that we could squeeze in. And it's all because a good friend of ours has a documentary dropping February 14th called Fredheads. So make sure you guys check that out.
I'm Crystal, aka Creepin, it's spooky.
I'm Justine, aka JustineUFF.
I'm Emma, aka Emma of the Impact.
We're going to start off talking about the remake, which honestly, I think that's kind of funny because this is one of the few films out there that I think is universally hated. Like universly rejected, not accepted.
There's not even a lot of back and forth, because sometimes people will come forward. The most I'll see people come forward, which I agree with this, it's not that bad of a movie in general. It's not terrible. Like, it has a beginning and an end.
Yeah,
it's fine. You know, it's not.
It's
like
a
it's
movie.
It's a movie. It feels like a movie. You know, that's what I like about it. But it wouldn't be like, oh.
It is hard because you're comparing it. Yeah, you're comparing it to the original. You're comparing Freddy to Robert Englund. Like, there's too many comparisons, and it's hard to
do much different.
No, they didn't. But they
also didn't do much different than any other film either at the time.
True.
Like, it was very copy paste of all the other teen supernatural horror we were getting. So it wasn't only not different story-wise to a degree. It was not different in general for horror at the time. That was kind of a lull in horror, to be honest, right then and there. But we also were at
which was like, it's
the down.
Yeah.
The down of like the remake craze. So this one came at the very end to capitalize, and it just stumbled because unfortunately with Freddy Krueger, you have a very, very scary but like charismatic, oftentimes a little silly of a character, which I think was the smart choice for not making him a pedophile in the first franchise. That was removed, which I think is smart because
it's there though. I mean, he's
there. I mean,
they don't talk
he's
about
more
it.
Slimy of a character. He just seems like a grimy, disgusting guy who just makes gross jokes and is lewd and stuff.
Well, he doesn't even feel like a guy. He feels more like a monster or a demon.
A demon, he never really
feels like just a regular.
Yeah, and then you have in the remake, he's scary. He's trying to just be scary, and then every so often it's like he tries to be clever, and it's like no one's going to think a pedophile's clever. Nobody's ever going to want to laugh at your joke.
And he's not a murderer in the remake. He does, I'm not saying, I mean, it's an awful thing to be a child molester. Awful. Yeah. Like one of the worst things you can do. But the murder on top of it makes it extra bad. And one movie that I've mentioned many a time, no, it's not. I knew you guys were thinking about that if I introduced this way. So the original Nightmare and the remake both remind me very much of Fritz Lang's M, which is about a child killer and also implied molester. And the theme is about this idea of vigilante justice. In Fritz Lang's M, they find out who he is. We even almost, we don't see him kill a little girl, but we see so much that it's like very creepy in a way that's very effective without being exploitive. And the big ending is when they corner Peter Lorre, who's playing this child killer, in the underground, and it's like a mob of people, and they know he's guilty, and he's admitting it. So he's not like Freddy. He's like Freddy in the sense of what he does, but it's and it's the idea of vigilante justice. And he looks at this crowd and says, "I am guilty. I cannot help myself. I don't want to be this way. I don't want to do these things, but I can't help it." Basically saying, I'm going to do this again. Like, I'm not proud of it, but like, it's going to happen. This is who I am. The crowd has this big debate of what's the right thing to do. And what happens in, spoiler alert for a very old movie, everyone, is that some people take in the reins and he gets arrested and he goes to court. We know he goes to court, and then the movie ends on 3 of the mothers whose children were murdered, and they kind of make a little bit of a statement to the camera, but we do not know the fate of Peter Lorre's character. We don't know if he's executed. We don't know. And it kind of points a lens at us and the idea, and this came out before World War II. So it's like this idea of like looking at the philosophy of killing one to protect the many, and also this whole idea of, what's that common phrase everyone knows? About
vigilante justice?
No, about like not being for the state murdering people.
Oh yeah.
My brain's not. Yes, my brain's not working. I apologize. So I feel like the original Nightmare on Elm Street and the remake, so the first Nightmare on Elm Street, the very first movie, and the remake is very much a commentary on the same thing in a very similar way, in this mob justice idea. But I don't know, I was trying to think, does it change? It changes the story a little. So first off is that Freddy isn't a murderer in the remake.
Yeah.
And he is never arrested. He's never arrested.
No.
Like in the first one, the original Nightmare on Elm Street, what happens is he's arrested. Some drunk judge forgets to sign something on a search warrant and he's set free. It's been like a mistake of justice. This wasn't supposed
miscarriage
to happen.
of justice, not.
Yeah. And so then it makes it more of a convoluted storyline, more realistic to life in a certain way. And then the remake is just
their children, and because there's no evidence, I don't think the cops can do anything, so they decide to take it into their own hands.
Well, Clancy Brown, who's not a very good guy in this movie, he's not a terrible guy. He's doing what he thinks is the right thing. He's always so comforting to me, though. Like, he's so big and strong. It's like, everything's fine, everybody. Clancy Brown's here. Everything's fine. But what he says in the movie, one of the fathers of the children, is that, do you really want our kids to have to go up there and be witness and give testimony to what happened to them? And also with the remake, something atmospherically that is very off for me. I think that the actor I don't think it's his fault. I really don't. And I think
the actor was great. Yeah, I think that's the only good thing.
It's so dark. I mean, visually, like, we never see the world looking normal. We never see this normal suburb where there's of lack of parenting
evil
and an invading evil. It already looks like, hey, this is a horror movie, so everything looks super dark and high contrasty. And it's
the opening scene is in a diner, right?
Yeah, he kills himself in the diner.
Yeah.
Wow, kills himself.
That is a really good scene. I will say, I like that scene.
I did too. I loved the opening.
That's one of the good things about the movie. I think some of the like real life like moments and the way that they handle the not sleeping with the sleeping pills and like getting medication to help them.
The micro naps, I think, was very smart.
Yeah. I think some of it was really good. The problem for me is the storyline required us to have some sympathy for this mob mentality and this like mob justice. And I have none. I have no sympathy. At no point did I think, oh, the parents are bad for not telling their children that they murdered somebody, not telling their children and that they were molested. Like, who would want to tell their children that? Like, if your kid didn't remember,
how do all these children, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah, not all of them. Yeah.
Every single child. And they really focus on the pedophilia thing a lot. A way that it's like it to the point which I'm not saying that is bad that they are making a commentary on that. It's just that it is too much in the movie. Like, there's a scene in the movie where Nancy is dressed in a little girl's dress and laying on the bed still, and he's kind of moving his hands over her. That is a very real life thing that happens and creepy, and like, I don't want to think about that. Like, that's a thing.
Yeah, that's exactly what I think failed for this remake altogether. They should have left that alone. I feel like they chose that to be more shocking and more evil and darker, and that was just stupid because him being a child killer and having that just implied, we don't even need to know like what kids he killed. We don't even need to see him kill kids. The minute he shows up and he starts killing people in their dreams, that's scary enough. That is enough. And then you add the like flippant, charismatic jokingness and like evilness of him, the complete like disregard for people, where he's just flipping jokes at their like complete terror,
annihilation.
Yeah, and the what's the one with the hearing aids? And he says, I forget what he
Fred
says.
said, you want to lend me an ear, Carlos? It's Carlos. I just watched it.
Yeah,
Freddy's good.
yeah. That one freaked me out when he like came climbing out of his ear and stuff. Like that's enough.
Another part of the remake that made me feel
like
another part, but so that's a big aspect to it that a lot of people feel very uncomfortable with, because it didn't. And then they did a lot of after the Psycho shot for literally their intention was to shot for shot make a remake with Vince Vaughn of Psycho, was like not liked, not well received, and they did not in dreams and later sequels that is like Freddy's house. That is its own character, and something that is important with Wes Craven movies is always the house. Like he really kind of what Wes Craven likes to do is he uses the family dynamic as a microcosm for the rest of the world. And with the Nightmare on Elm Street house, it's like levels of the subconscious. Or if you think of People Under the Stairs, which is even more obvious, the symbolism of the levels of capitalism. And then when we first, in the 2010 remake, we first see Nancy's house, it's just an establishing shot. Nothing. It's like they don't even give a shit. And we don't, it looks like just any old house. Like just any old house. Like right next door, like in New England anyway. And I just like, you don't understand this. You don't, guys.
You can tell. Well, you can tell when people are making horror movies to capitalize, make a quick buck, and push out something, and they're not necessarily true horror fans because of things like that. Like where it's like, well, you think you're taking everything that's face value about the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise and you're shoving it into a 2010 lens, and that's all you're doing. But what's underneath and why people love the franchise and what makes it really scary isn't just the fact that this guy's invading our dreams when we're most vulnerable, but it is the vulnerability. It's the layers of ourselves, our subconsciouses, all of that, and how we control that subconscious. And it's so funny to me when people look at horror and they think it's just stupid. Like, he's just gory. You guys just like Freddy Krueger because he's funny.
Just killing teenagers, like, right? Like, that's the movie. One of the ones
got his knife hands.
So one thing that the only reoccurring director in the entire franchise is Wes Craven, who did the first one and Wes Craven's New Nightmare. What he does that the others don't do. Sometimes they'll do it, but most of the time, which I think is a missed opportunity, is the other ones, which I love a lot of the sequels. So, but is that the remake is another offender of this, is they'll automatically, like a good example is in the third one when Patricia Arquette is in the asylum and then a tricycle comes into the door and there's blood trailing. Immediately they're telling us this is a dream. Scary stuff is going to happen. Unlike when Wes Craven directs,
the hints. I love the hints.
Leads you in, and you're not sure if it's a dream or not. And I think they really could have done.
I love the fuzzy. He always has a little fuzzy when she's dreaming. Yeah, it's got this aura to it.
And which is so it's kind of, especially when the little girls are present in the white dresses, is kind of angelic, and you're like, but something bad's gonna happen, dude. It's not gonna be good.
Oh God.
But the remake really missed the mark on this, where they added this thing, this micro nap thing, which is real. I looked it up as much as I can. You know, I'm not going into medical journals, guys, but apparently it's a real thing where you're so sleep deprived, it can happen where you have like this micro nap where you don't even realize you're asleep and you're kind of just like still up. It's an extreme situation. So they could have what they used with that is just for us to get a flash of Freddy in and out sometimes, instead of really doing something creative with it. And the final nail I'll have to say about the remake, and then you guys can add anything else too, is that it made me think of the Stranger Things episode deep dive that we did, because there's the infamous scene from the first Nightmare on Elm Street where Nancy is sleeping over at Tina's house, where he pushes through the wall. And what they did in that effect, which a great documentary that is, what is it called, Crystal?
Never Sleep Again.
Like over 3 hours long, but it is detailed and awesome. Like, it's on YouTube.
It's long. It's 4 hours long.
Like, that is a cheap, like, they use spandex, like, which was a new material apparently at the time to them, but and they had the stunt man go through. And in the remake, it is very much so like in the style of the times that was kind of aging out by 2010. Extremely CG, where we see him moving in the wall more, but it looks so dumb and fake just because it looks newer.
Reminds me of Frighteners.
And I love Frighteners, but in this, it just doesn't work. It doesn't show us anything really,
but new eyes. But at the same time, like it's deer. I don't know.
Like, it is.
But the creep, which we can start going into now, is that it was an independent movie, and New Line Cinemas hadn't made a lot of feature productions on their own. They started off as a distribution, starting off with their obsession with reefer madness. Like, as much as Bob Shea can be like an ass, like, he really works hard, a lot of his own money, and he really scraped to get the first Nightmare on Elm Street made. When it comes to budgeting, the producer of all of the Nightmare on Elm Streets, except for the 2010, he wasn't part of New Line anymore, I believe, since 2008. I didn't even realize until I rewatched the Never Sleep Again documentary that him and Lynn Shay are brother and sister. And I love Lynn Shay.
I didn't know that.
I didn't either. And then she's like being interviewed. She's like, yeah, my brother. And I'm like, oh, I don't. But she's
in two with
the
them.
Teacher.
Yeah.
Yes,
and she comes back as a nurse.
Is that in New Nightmare, right?
I think it's new.
I just rewatched them all. And I have to say, one thing that I know as a person that's like seen all of them many times, if you watch them all together, some of the later sequels become a little tiresome. You're like, okay, let's get to this. Okay, let's get to the point.
Let's get to Freddy.
Well, no, that's the thing. Is like everything else is like it's like we'll get to the point of like whatever bullshit thing kills him this time, whether it's showing him his own reflection or whatever, which is the one. Which it's I love the movie, but it's like I always know that I'm going to, like, if I just out of nowhere watch Nightmare on Elm Street 5, which is one of my less favorite ones, Dream Child, out of nowhere without watching the others, I'm gonna enjoy it more because, you know, it's like Freddy's being funny and it's got all these crazy set designs and pieces. But if I watch, you know, if I've seen 3 recently, you know, I'm gonna judge the 5th one a little bit more.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh, you know what? I feel like I need to be cruel to you guys and say we should do a rapid fire ranking at the end.
Let's do it.
Oh, damn.
I could probably do this.
I think I can do it for this one. It gets quite clear, and and again, it's like by a hair with some of them. But with the first Nightmare on Elm Street, so I feel like John Carpenter's big. Oh my God, it's John Carpenter's birthday, so he's on my brain. Wes Craven. It's so happy birthday, John Carpenter. You didn't do Nightmare on Elm Street at all, but you're one of the greats.
You're in our hearts.
You're in our hearts, in my mind, out of my mouth. Wes Craven.
It just made me think of someone, because people always ask me, do you prefer John Carpenter or Wes Craven? It's a common question that I get. I don't know if you guys get that.
I see people say it all the time. Like, it's the big no. The way it's always
question
that I see presented in TikTok that wasn't presented to me so much, but it was going around to our horror community a little while ago. It's like controversial big question: Wes Craven or John Carpenter? And I'm like, they're different. I don't know. I mean, they're very different. They have a whole different style. I mean, John Carpenter is more of a classical style, but they both are very similar in certain ways. But I don't know. I mean, I prefer Nightmare on Elm Street as a movie to Halloween, but but that's
Yeah,
not
so
comparing
I always
directors.
say I'm more of a Wes Craven fan than John Carpenter fan. I love John Carpenter's films. The Thing is one of my favorite films of all time.
But I
And I
can't
like
compare The Thing and Nightmare.
I
It's
like
like
The Thing better than A Nightmare on Elm Street, but I think that I like more Wes Craven films than I do John Carpenter films. So Wes Craven is more solid to me of a director. I always felt like if it's a Wes Craven film, I'm probably gonna like it, even if a lot of people don't like it. Like Cursed, I like Cursed. I watched Cursed.
it too.
I would love to see Wes Craven's original like imagining for it, but even at its like basis little sprinkling of Craven, I still love it because it still feels like a Craven film. Like I just love him. So everything he does, everything he touches.
I feel like I really can't compare them. If I had to be
I know. I'm always quick to compare things.
If I had to be a formalist about it, of like just measuring successful movies, whether there's commercially or critically successful, and how many in quantity. I mean, John Carpenter has more successful films, but do I think he's a better filmmaker? I don't think that it's quantified that way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like Prince of Darkness is a fantastic movie. I love Escape from New York. I can't do it. I can't compare the two. I love them both.
You don't
can't
have
make me
to.
pick between
I was
my
just
dads.
wondering because I get that question a lot, and I feel like a lot of people who answer it, they're always surprised when I say Wes Craven. But I do love Wes Craven more. I do. I watch more of his films more. I like more of his films more. I like fewer of Carpenter's films. I think that you're right. There is a few that are more successful for Carpenter. Maybe. I don't know. I feel like Nightmare on Elm Street and Scream really top a lot of horror films in popularity.
Well, to be fair, like I think Carpenter definitely has a higher number of successful varied films, but Scream and Nightmare on Elm Street are not that The Thing and isn't, or Halloween isn't, because they very much are, but it feels like in a world where horror was getting stale, they really made such a turn. Like they turned and changed the entire,
right? Yeah.
And Halloween too.
Totally.
Halloween Dark Carpenter did not direct. But did he? No. Okay, so but back to Nightmare on Elm Street. I remember that was one of the first times I was extremely scared by a horror movie was Tina in the body bag in the hallway. In the bloody body bag.
That's
and then later Tina. Oh my god. I was probably 5 or something around there, maybe 6 or 7.
Yeah, I was 4 the first time I watched Nightmare on Elm Street, and the last time I watched it until I was like 11. I couldn't watch it again.
Intense.
It scared me so much.
And then Tina again with all the snakes, the muddy snakes at her feet. And when the centipede comes out and she's all blue, oh my god, Tina!
Tina! Fuck, yeah. Well, her death scene alone is fantastic. Like
it's great. I don't remember, that probably scared me too, but I remember like being like really rattled by the body bag.
In the first one, it was the waterbed because my aunt had a waterbed, and that was the aunt that we lived with all the movies. So anytime I was near her waterbed, I thought of that scene, and I thought someone was gonna suck me in. Freddy Krueger was gonna pull me into the waterbed. So
like the Glen scene.
Yeah. Yeah, that one did it for me. It scarred me pretty good.
Wes Craven wanted to make with this film. A lot is, the idea of the sins of the parents, the sins of the father that, and these parents, like Nancy, like a big part that isn't present in the remake, and it is present in some of the sequels. We'll get into it individually because it changes a lot. Is that Nancy her parents are divorced. Her dad's, is he the sheriff?
He's a cop, yeah. I don't know if he's a sheriff, but he's a cop.
And
give me 1 second, real quick.
Oh, since you're taking 1 second, I'll take 1 second. Crystal, go. I'll be right
back. You guys, I'm not sure what to do to entertain you. Ask your questions. It's very hard to be entertaining when you're alone. I can hear somebody scurrying. Well, I'll say right now that the remake sucks because of the CGI. And did anybody else think that what's her name? Rooney Mara? Is that how you say it? Rooney Mara? Her performance was really lackluster. She's a great actress, but I did hear that she did not enjoy filming the remake. So, and I think it shows. I think it really comes across on camera. She is very bored seeming throughout the movie, and I don't know, I just didn't believe her performance. But that's a whole other discussion, I guess. I was just a little disappointed in her. I feel like some of the other people were better.
My dogs were going crazy. Sorry. One of them was outside and one of them inside. And so we'll see if they keep barking. I heard you talking about Rooney Mara. I love Rooney Mara. And yeah, I feel like she should have been the lead in that movie and it would have been better.
I think she didn't enjoy filming this movie at all. Like she openly talks about how much she hated filming it. And I think it just shows. Like I think she looks so bored on camera and just
Rooney Mara or Ronnie
Rooney
Mara.
If she would have been the lead, do you think? I think she would have. I don't know. I've seen her perform before, and she's so good and eerie, and I don't know.
She was. I don't know where she's gone. She was in the remake of the American remake of Girl with a Dragon Tattoo and a few things.
Yeah,
she was in Martian
in stuff. Wasn't she? Kristen something. Hold on. Let me look.
Yeah, she's a good actress. I don't know.
Yeah, Nightmare. That's what it was.
Oh, that was a recent one.
I didn't see that.
Anywho, sorry, Emma. What was saying before I had to go take care of the dogs?
No, it's okay. I'm sorry. sorry. Dropped off for a second. We get this idea. It's not just that the parents are kind of dealing with what they've done in the past, which we don't know at first.
Yeah.
But Nancy basically becomes at times a mother figure to her alcoholic mother. Like there's a scene that is so real, like whether you like internalize it or not, depending on your age when you first watch this, where she puts her mother to bed when she's drunk, and it's very real. And Tina, it's more so in Scream because Drew Barrymore was famous for Amanda Weiss paying Tina wasn't a big actress, but where we think that Tina's our main. Camera just doesn't like me tonight. Okay. We think Amanda Weiss as Tina is going to be our main protagonist, and she isn't. But even her mother, and not that going away on a trip is bad, but it's implied that it's more that her mom is away with some guy in Vegas or her boyfriend in Vegas. So it's this implication that the parents gets more violence, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So instead of Fritz Lang's M, where it's supposed to be up to interpretation, I feel Nightmare on Elm Street is very much so anti-vigilante or capitalist punishment.
Yeah.
Yeah, heavy. Okay.
Heavy. There's more to horror than just killing teens.
Yeah, isn't this you're like this
obviously.
Yeah.
For it's so interesting because like I feel like a lot of other franchises do. It has to like up the ante every time, right? It has to get more crazy, more creative. The Saw franchise does it really badly, I think. But but Nightmare on Elm Street does it really well, I think. It's like they just keep leaning in more than they're upping the ante. Like they're just really leaning into the stuff that people talked about the most in the last one.
Well, I think that too, besides the whole Scream Queen of it all, and a lot of themes we'll talk about there, I think that too was suffered a lot, which it made more money than the first one, but it suffered a lot as not a fan favorite because it was such a dramatic shift from the first one,
right?
And they did make it in a hurry, but I think that 3 was able to thrive after 2 already happened. We already saw Freddy like running around at a pool party full of teens. So
one of my favorite scenes.
It is pretty funny.
I
You know,
love the
I
pool
could have
party one.
sworn
Huh.
that
It's so
that
fun.
Robert England was a short king. He's not tall, but he's not
You don't
as
think
short
so?
as
Let's look it up. Let's see how tall he
Oh,
is.
I know. I looked it up.
Stake your. Oh, you did?
Oh,
I
how
did.
tall
I
is he?
can't. He is 5'10", which I would have
Oh.
guessed like 5'7" or 5'6". I knew it wasn't like Tom Cruise
Okay.
short, but I guess he's just petite because he looks so
Oh, he's
small to
slender.
me.
Yeah, he's very
sli-
slender.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And of course, Robert England is he's a classically trained actor, but we think of him more of a character actor. I love him in everything from Eaten Alive. Who he does the original. My name is Buck, and I'm here to
Here
fuck.
to fuck.
I'm here to fuck, and then he gets really rapey, but doesn't rape somebody. He gets it's intervened. Good
Yeah.
news. That's Eaten Alive. Or I was watching for our werewolf episode, Werewolf Strippers, and Robert England is a cameo in that, where
He's
one
a
of
cameo
the
king. He's a cameo
packs
king.
packs of werewolves they go like, we gotta talk to her alpha male, and they go to the prison where their alpha male is, who's Robert England. And so they go and they're like, what do we do? And then Robert England gives a very eloquent version of Band of Brothers speech from Henry IV Part 2, Shakespeare's play. So he gives like this Shakespearean monologue and does it great, and it doesn't make any sense in the movie, but it does it great. And they're like, yeah, and then they go on to the zombie stripper part of it, and I mean zombie werewolves, because Robert England is also in Zombie Strippers with Jenna Jameson. So
Same universe?
No, but this should
That
be.
would be really funny.
Would be with cameos of people you hardly know, but you still know it's a cameo. But no,
Vampire strippers next.
No. Ooh.
Well,
so
that's still on.
Yeah. So Zombie Strippers is not it's not a porn. It's a regular movie. But if I had to choose between the two or recommend between the two, which aren't great movies, Zombie Strippers over Zombie Werewolves. Surprisingly enough.
Good to know.
Jenna Jameson adds something, and it gets really stupid where they think that they get superpowers and super strength because they're zombies, and they get into a battle with each other of who can do the best dance. It's so fucking stupid.
A strip battle? A strip dance battle?
Yes. So
okay,
and the way that Freddy Robert England is killed is very sexual and awesome in that movie, but I won't spoil it.
Okay. I'm definitely gonna watch it, so don't spoil it.
I won't.
But yeah, yes, you sounded surprised, Crystal, when I said I liked the pool scene.
Yeah. I didn't really like the pool scene. I don't know why.
It's the first time I think we really see Freddy kind of being like really like ha ha kind of Freddy.
Yeah, that's why I love him, because he jumps out and he's just like ha ha.
Like he really literally jumps. Like it's like a hop.
Literally, he shoots out of the thing over the fence. He looks like he got shot up with like pyrotechnics. Like a springboard, a loaded springboard shoots him up.
So I know you guys didn't have a ton of time. I don't know if you guys had time to watch Scream Queen.
I didn't get to. Okay, I'll admit for the chat too, I didn't get a chance to watch any of these again, and I didn't get a chance to watch the documentaries. I'm really disappointed, but unfortunately,
life happens.
My life did happen, so I couldn't get to them. But I've seen
fine,
the franchise a few times. I just haven't seen the documentaries. But go ahead and talk about it. Don't worry about spoiling it.
It's a documentary.
It's behind the scenes stuff. Like it's literally 4 hours of them being like, "This happened in this movie, and this was behind the scenes of this movie." It was very informative, though.
Oh, that's the other one.
For Sleep Again and Scream Queen. I highly recommend. Yeah. It's on Shudder exclusively. It's about Mark Patton, who is Jesse in the second one. And it's a lot about gay politics of the time and how it was written subtextually. It's text, guys, dude. I mean, come on. I
Yeah.
rewatched it gayer than I remembered. There's a whole when he wakes up in the middle of the night before he knows what's going on, and you think it's a dream where he just wanders into a gay bar. Where Robert Shea, the producer, plays a leather daddy bartender, and then his gym teacher's there in like full like leather, like a sex slave. And then his gym teacher, like as an adult, when you rewatch these, it's like, don't think of it as much as a kid. It's like where the gym teacher's like, you shouldn't be here. You have to come back to the school and run laps. It's like, what? What? But
Whoa.
then the gym teacher dies getting spanked. Well, he dies with the claws, but he gets spanked newer with the towel. But even Mark Patton's character of Jesse is shot like the girls are, and like wear a lot. It really, and the way that Freddy talks to him about this whole, which I think it was a good idea. I know a lot of people have think it doesn't make sense that Freddy would want to inhabit a human body because then he doesn't have his powers. He's not as powerful in a human body, and I agree with that. And I definitely don't agree with, like, there's a lot of poltergeist shit that happens outside of dreams. It's like, what's going on? Like, where balls will be flying, like in the gym, flying all over the place. It's like, this doesn't make sense. Everyone's awake. But I love Jesse. I love Mark Patton, and I love all of the gay stuff. I love the scene of Mark Patton dancing, which is supposed to be like the risky business scene in gay clubs, was like a big deal and a big thing. But for the Never Sleep Again documentary, which came out around 2010, quite a bit ago, they wanted like this really comprehensive full documentary, and they couldn't find Mark Patton, who played Jesse, our Scream Queen of Nightmare on Elm Street 2. They had to hire a private investigator to find him, and he was living like off a dirt road in Mexico. Thought about Nightmare on Elm because he had quit the business after a very former partner, a very close friend of him, died of AIDS, and he felt very outed by Nightmare on Elm Street 2 because the AIDS epidemic and Reaganism was in full bloom, and people that were, and Robert Englund had said, actors he knew that were out went back in the closet and had to play that fake, like, talking to people formerly a part of it. And it kind of touches more upon gay icons in horror. It becomes a microcosm. It's very well done, and it's very well, it's not just because it's an interesting topic. It's well done, and when there is narration, it is narrated by Cecil Baldwin, who does the voice of Night Vale Radio on the Night Vale. This is Welcome to Night Vale podcast, if you're a fan of that horror podcast. And he's also a gay icon in horror. So so I highly recommend it. And so Nightmare on Elm Street 2, I think a lot of people weren't ready for a male character to be in a more feminine, which I don't think it's something that, nowadays we think, does this really even have to be gendered? It's just a human thing. Like, do we have to think of, and kind of is looked through the male lens a little bit. And I think that definitely made people more uncomfortable, even though it wasn't a conscious thought. But I also think, aside from the awesome gayness of this movie, I just think that it was such a shift, and it's so much more brightly lit. It's the same house, but it looks so different because it's so bright. Where the lovebird explodes, like, what is that? But I think that audiences were not ready for funny Freddy, even though he's not funny the whole time. And so it did, and I think that's part of why one of my favorites of the whole franchise, and a fan favorite, number 3, not only being a fucking solid, perfect movie, one of my favorite movies, really. But I think that number 2 had to happen for people to be ready for 3.
I agree. And 3, let's talk about 3. It's my favorite.
Crystal, did you want to talk about 2? Oh, look.
No.
I'm just asking, just making sure. Yeah.
Are just the most memorable, important, and fleshed out to a degree. They're all very individual, like very specific characters. They have their specific things going on. Of course, this is set in a right? It's an institution. Yeah.
I would assume it's state run. You like a state.
Yeah. And I feel like I love that setting anyways, because I
always love that setting in a horror movie. Automatically, I love it. And I'm just, not that it's uncommon, but as a teen and young woman in my 20s, I have been in a psych unit from time to time. I'm fine. Everything's fine. Not a good memory, but not a bad one. And it's actually very realistic too, except for the fact that they had like a board with tacks on it I'm like, that wouldn't happen. But they call like the room where you have to get locked in, where you're like a bit too much, the quiet room. That's what and it was just it felt like I was one of those kids, not one of them specifically, but I related to the idea of these kids needing a little bit of help, and how Patricia Arquette's mother was like, she doesn't really need to be here. She just her therapist says she wants attention. And I am not somebody that's interested in acting, but that is a role that I would love to play. Is Patricia Arquette's mom? And in the next one, it's like a catchphrase of hers. She's on delay. Let's go, Kristen. On delay. On delay. I love her mom. She's not supposed to be like, and I think this one is so perfect to me because it's where Freddy starts to get really cheesy before he gets too cheesy. The kids feel
Just
like
the right
real
amount of
kids.
cheese.
And the kids feel like real
time, bitch.
Yeah, that ultimate. That's like the best. The best. Larry Fishburne, aka Lawrence Fishburne. He feels very real in this. In the fourth
Plus,
one,
we get Heather back.
Heather! Yeah. I'm going to get that to that in 1 second. But as the sequels go on, the teens become more tropes than they are people. But this one, I think, has the right amount of horror and comedy. Favorite, like face to faces, like. Forget Laurie Strode and Michael. Okay, boring. To me, it's not my favorite. I get why people like it. I like Laurie Strode. Blah 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 blah. This is, but when in the third one, it's such an awesome scene when Patricia Arquette is spit out by the giant Freddy worm, and he sees Heather, who's been pulled into the dream. He's like she's back. The girl that defeated him is like on, like, so sad.
Yeah. It's one of those ultimate final girl moments, right? That really cemented Heather Langenkamp and Nancy Thompson as a ultimate final girl more than just the first one. The first one, I mean, that's the cool thing about final girls is they come back. They meet their foe over and over again, and so it's just so important to have her come back. And the way that they did it is perfect for her character too. It just made sense that she would come into this more caregiving role because she's used to being a caregiver. She was for her friends, she was for her mom. She's probably doing some self-healing by giving to others. I'm sure that's, and psychology, of course. The whole
it's
first
still kind of
one's
like
about
she's fighting Freddy still, fighting, even though she's not literally fighting Freddy yet. Again, is that fighting the idea of people that suffer from extreme nightmares.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're right. It doesn't get too over the top yet. I mean,
the One of the Pride type is pretty over the top, but it feels like just the right amount. Like
just the right amount. Yeah.
And
my favorite kill is the veins. The puppet veins.
It's a great one. I think it's the first kill, right? Yeah, it's the first one.
And it's in my skin when I watch it. It just, the way they just rip out and it's like in his arms and stuff.
It's so well done though. I love it.
It's so good. That one stuck with me for a long time.
And he does everything. He's like Donald Pleasance, and it's comforting seeing him back. And I think it's the right amount of horror, the right amount of comedy. And yes, we watch these as kids, so there is a part of bias to it, but because usually I loathe, and in the later ones I don't like it as much. A lot of unnecessary exhibition, but we already saw, this is your big break in TV. Welcome to prime time, bitch. So then when we get this, and it's delivered in little doses, the whole Amanda Kruger, son of 100 maniacs thing is delivered in, and also it's expositional, yes, but it also adds a dimension to the idea of evil, in the sense of
the birth of evil.
The birth of evil. And also Amanda Kruger talks to what's his face? I'm not a Craig Wasson. Is that how you say his name? The idea that she's like, well, of religion and in theology, and not whether, and in this case she's so Christian Christianity in a sense, and so the idea of the spiritual and science, because he's a scientist, and so it's kind of the pairing of the two. Burial, but it just takes a dog peeing on
Wasn't it like?
the next
Oh, I
movie
thought it
to
was
bring him
like
back.
the
So
cathedral glass or something.
now that's the fourth one.
That's the fourth one. I always get that
His
mixed up.
reflection.
With
I
his
get the fourth
reflection,
and
yeah.
fifth one mixed up.
I always get the death mixed up. How they kill him or stop him mixed up with these movies.
because it's always so it's usually so hollow, and then he'll always come back. It's like the old schoolyard thing of like, boom boom boom, I just killed you, I just shot you 1,000 times. Oh no, you didn't, I'm impervious to bullets, and I just did that. It's like this topping of like, okay, Freddy, whatever, we get it, fine, we're done.
We get it.
We get it. But
Yeah.
I also, the King
That's
Kane
what I'm
character I just
saying.
like.
Like Dream Warriors has really good fleshed out characters that are very
Mhm.
individual. Like none of the characters feel the same, like repeats just to get killed off. Like it doesn't feel like it's just a bunch of friends who are all like in a friend group who all have similar qualities and doing similar things they're all dealing with. So it's just more interesting, I think.
It's the first time that they also bring into the fold and the stories, which is interesting, and it works in throughout the sequels a little bit, is that Patricia Arquette's character, Kirsten, is that she has an ability that she can bring people and become something they all can do, and that later will transfer to Alice in the next one. Which the next one, it starts off on a bad foot for me, because that's something that I hate, that when movies do this, like the first sequels or Friday the 13th does this, where we see them triumph overall in a movie, and then they begin the next movie by killing Kincaid's name, the other boy that survived, uh, and Kirsten, all three of them, boom, gone, and it's like, okay, thanks,
Thanks.
great. I do like Alice, and but it just feels like they really wanted to make a message of like, oh, that's done. This is the
Moving
new stuff.
on. Yeah.
Although Kirsten's death, I really do like, even though I hate that she dies, because we get the mom again. Where she's like, "Mom, I can't really stay. I can't really stay, Kirsten. I have a friend over. On delay." And then that's the it's a famous gif now that she heard. It's part of the beach scene where Freddy has the sunglasses, and
Yeah.
they go more over the top with the kills, and one thing you learn in Never Sleep Again, especially for 4 and 5, which is Dream Master and Dream Child, they didn't really have a script at all. They just kind of were very fast and getting it all done. And so the movies do feel they're fun, more so 4 than 5, which we'll get into that. They really just did a lot of really cool, fun kills. Some of them cooler and more
which
fun
one
than
has
others.
the pizza? The pizza with the
That's
sausage
4.
heads.
That's
4.
Dream Master. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love
Dream
it.
Master might be one of my other favorites, to be honest.
Really? I love the
really
pizza
like it.
part. I really
I do
do love
too.
the pizza part. And there's
Well,
actually a
what
good waterbed scene in that one too.
Yeah,
isn't there
that's the
one
other
with
boy
the
that
underneath.
dies.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's where there's the girl inside of it though, right?
Yeah.
He's
There's like a
checking out
light and
the
then
porn or whatever, and
yeah.
she's all
He
like,
sees the girl, and then it's Freddy. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, and then what's the one?
I was just gonna
Oh,
say, can we mention the nurse from Dream Warriors scene?
Oh,
Because
yeah,
that's also a
always.
girl into Freddy. Because the first time I ever watched that shocked the shit out of me because I was not expecting
boobs?
it. No,
Her
just the fact that she turns into Freddy.
yeah.
Not the boobs.
No, but
No.
it's funny that watching the behind the scenes for that in Never Sleep Again, they show their first idea, which I thought I remembered happening. Maybe they changed it. I can't remember, where it's Freddy. It turns into Freddy's head, but it still has the topless
It
woman.
has the body, yeah.
I remember it being
Weird.
that way, and they're like, we were
Yeah?
gonna do that, and then it looks stupid, and but because they changed it, and when I put my new Blu-ray in, and it has the more normal scene where it hands away, and then it's Freddy. I remember, I don't know, chat, let us know what you remember, because I definitely remember Freddy's head on a woman's body. I feel like that was in a version that was released. I feel like that's true, right?
I don't know, maybe it was like a behind the scenes thing that like they
Maybe
played
I
the
just
clip or
remembered it a lot
something.
because it was pretty stupid looking. I'm glad
It,
they decided it was dumb.
was. Honestly, I was kind of into it. Like when I watched the documentary, I was like, oh, it could have
It's
worked.
different.
It
Could
was
have.
interesting. I don't know. But
Sorry,
yeah, no,
we're being rowdy again.
the Dream Master pizza scene is probably one of my favorites. And it was really cool
It's
how
That
they
definitely
one
did
my
it.
messes
favorite
me
thing.
up. It messes me
It's
up.
so good though. Like
It makes
it's
me so
creepy.
uncomfortable. The way he just and then
Eats
eats
it.
it.
Yeah. The little meatball.
Little screaming head.
That's the type of body horror, you guys. I don't like it.
I don't even consider it body horror. It's just kind of like,
yeah, he got turned into a meatball.
he was already a meatball. I don't even know exactly whose face it was. It was like there.
Yeah, it's just already in the pizza.
So
It's just the idea of like being turned into a meatball on a pizza and then getting eaten.
That's too
fucking
far away
crazy
from
scary.
reality for me to be scared. Like
No,
like
that's why
somebody
it's so
like
scary because my dreams are so scary and I have the most vivid dreams ever. And like whenever I watch the Nightmare on You, I have the worst dreams. So when I watch these movies and I see this stuff, I will dream about that. I will dream about getting turned into a fucking meatball and it will feel so real. So that's not far from reality because I will dream about it tonight.
I mean, fair. That's fair.
I mean, losing my legs, that's more like if a character loses their legs in an accident, it's more freaking to me because that could happen to me. But turning into a meatball could never happen to me. So, like, that's why I think the tusk walrus
I would be
freaks me out because it's like, yeah, that's not going to happen to me, and it can't physically happen really, but like it's enough where close enough where it gets to me, and I like it. Your sound of pleasure, Crystal.
I faces and like put them on the pizza and then like edited or make the faces all move and stuff. Like it was done so well. Very creative.
It made me hungry, to be honest.
Which one has
like,
the
pizza's
video
my favorite food.
Which one?
That's fit. That's 5.
For 5, yeah.
Okay. And then which one is the one with the skydiving? Where he's skydiving?
5.
That one also messed me up. I didn't
That's
like
5.
that.
5 really fucked you up because you have a lot of 5 memories. Not 5. I'm sorry. I say
4.
5. Freddy's Dead is the one I mean. Freddy's Dead is the one with the skydiving out of the plane in the beginning.
Final nightmare.
The final nightmare. Freddy's Dead.
Yeah.
Final nightmare. Directed by Rachel Talle, which we'll get into Dream Child first.
Yeah.
So one thing about Dream Child that is kind of intentional, but not, because they didn't have a script that like really makes me feel uncomfortable. That Demonic Toys, oddly enough, did as well.
Yeah.
Is the Charles Band David S. Goyer vehicle, Demonic Toys, #1.
Oh my god. Chat is reminding me of all of them now. And I'm like, yes, I love some of these so much. I don't know what it is about this franchise. It fucked me up. I love it so much. But
he gets in your mind. He knows all your secrets. He knows how to get to you. Like he would know that like turning Justine into a walrus person is the best way to get her.
Things. Like they just talked about the fitness girl in the Roach Motel. Yeah.
Fitness girl is 4. Yeah.
Oh, where her arms break.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Turns into a roach.
Yeah. I love that. It's so gnarly, but it's so good.
Oh, it's so bad. I hate it.
So like,
I mean, I love it. I love it. You're right.
5,
I do. But
they're very solid. They are basically vehicles. Super Freddy. Like, okay, that's stupid. But the demonic toys into Dream Child. So it's I don't do political, but I'm pro-choice. So so Alice making the choice that she wants to keep her baby, no problem. But the fact that whenever a movie has this thing where they have the person see their child as like a 6-year-old, like that their child, they're not even visibly pregnant, and it's like the idea of like, oh, you don't really want me. I'm like, God, this really makes me feel very uncomfortable. It's a very pro-lifey message. And I don't like it. I mean, I still like the movie, but that part of it really is hard for me. And I don't think that they're just kind of throwing it out there. I don't think they're super serious about it, but it makes me uncomfortable. Like if it's like all her decisions made sense. Her decision to want to keep her baby, the boyfriend she loved, who got killed by Freddy, an awesome motorcycle kill, right? He was the motorcycle kill, which is freaking awesome when Freddy turns into his motorcycle.
Yeah, that was a good kill.
It wasn't very good. They had to tone it down.
Creative. And I don't know why. I still like, it's hard for me to get into the mindset to watch them because they get in my skin. Like it takes me back to when I was a child, and these movies scared me. Like they really scared me. So did Chucky, but I'm bigger now. So Chucky's not nearly as scary. He's not as formidable. He's not coming into my dreams either. Like I would not be afraid.
A lot more sinister.
Yeah,
so much scarier.
Well, and I have night terrors. I've told maneuver in my dreams and stuff, and it's not easy. Like people don't just know how to do that. You don't just know how to lucid dream.
This is a horror movie bad dream. Like for some reason, I'm never able to change it. What happens out? And I'll wake up eventually. Like it's just like, good job taking initiative, Emma. Great.
Water for me. Every time I dream, something scary will happen, and I'll end up in the water, and then I'm really scared because I'm like, sharks. What is down there? Seaweed.
Sharks.
Like, all that stuff comes into my mind suddenly, and then like I would like turn myself into a mermaid or something, and I just swim down there.
I've never been able to do that.
Explore or something, and I try to change my mindset, and yeah.
I don't even get sexy dreams. Like I can only have a sexy dream if it's a person I've actually had sex with in real life. It sucks. Not even in my dreams.
I've there's a lot of mystery men out there.
Yeah, me too.
No, I wish.
Like they don't even have faces sometimes.
Like not even in my dreams. So it's like in your dreams, Emma. I'm just like, sorry, not even in my dreams.
Whoa.
Oh man,
I've had accidental ones too with people that I knew. Where the next day I was like,
well, at least that doesn't happen.
I hate it when that happens because it's never somebody I'm actually attracted to. It's always some weird person I'm mad at. Fucking hate
it. Something
interesting.
That's a thing.
And then the next day I'll be like,
interesting.
Like I don't even want to talk to him. like I know.
Just like to me, it says like I'm not a creative person. It's like you've never had sex with a person. You can't imagine it. Like it doesn't matter, Emma. Make it. It's a dream.
It's a dream.
Have to be realistic. Oh well.
It never.
My dreams are nice.
It's never realistic. Please.
Well, that it's a dream. It should be dream. Not even in my night dreams.
Sleep
hate fucking.
Yeah.
Wow.
I don't know what it is. It's like my subconscious is like, simmer down. This will make you avoid them. Sleep. Helps me kick in my flight.
You know what's gonna happen now is you're gonna have a dream you have sex with Freddy. It's gonna happen.
Oh whoa.
I don't want to admit anything today.
Oh well, if you like it, then it won't happen. I don't know, but it's good. Freddy's fun.
I have had a dream for every horror character I've ever watched, probably. Like that.
No, really?
Yeah. Unfortunately. So what hate fucking.
So not that I'm skipping ahead, but when they say evil versus evil with Freddy versus Jason, I'm like, okay, Jason, because you're talking about every horror villain.
Not Jason, with Chucky. Sorry.
Just a
no dolls.
It's a doll. It doesn't really matter. He's an adult in the mind.
Yeah, but he doesn't look like an adult.
Nope.
No. He doesn't look like a child either. He looks more like a thing to me. I bet. Well, he's a thing. He's a doll.
But he's anatomically correct.
That's true. That's canon. Funny enough, they make a big point of it over and over again in the Chucky series, which is fun and sometimes cringe, but sometimes fun. That boy ain't right, and you know that. Leave that boy alone. You leave that poor boy alone.
I left Jason alone. It wasn't really Jason. It was just somebody in a Jason mask. Okay.
No, not you, Justine. You can like he's going to have a good time. I mean, it's like let's not leave him alone. Don't call him evil. That
No,
boy,
well,
he's
Chucky
not right.
looks like a
I mean,
child. Jason,
Justine, you're
is
hanging in
mentally a
on this.
child. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, we're moving on.
Like a
What were we
shark.
talking about? Dream Child.
So like
it's a
in Dream,
boy.
it's a boy.
Oh wait, what's
so-
the one where Freddy Krueger opens his chest and it's all the faces
third
and
one.
souls? That's the third one. Yeah. Okay.
And
then it
Linnea
continues
Quigley
on.
is one of those. Did you guys know that? Linnea Quigley played one of those.
You told me that.
bodies. Oh, did I?
You're the one that told me that, I think. When we brought up Nightmare on Elm Street before, when we talked about films that freaked us out, I think, because that's probably when I would have talked about it. And I think you might have brought it up then.
I don't
One
remember.
of you guys taught me that.
Well, fun fact.
Fun fact.
Love that quick.
If you don't know.
It's really cool CGI though, too. Didn't they have like a bunch of people
Well, it's practical.
inside it?
It's a combination.
practical,
Well, it's practical effects, and like there's this
Yeah.
whole complicated story on the. I think it's the third one or I can't remember which one where they had a stunt woman. They had a bunch of people actually in this fake chest doing this, where we
Yeah.
actually see people
That's
moving
right.
in. Yeah, and they show like boobs
Yeah.
like pressing against. I think that's
Yeah.
the fourth one when it
No, I
gets
think
a
that's the
bit
third
more
one.
graphic. It is the third one. But one of the stunt people, she ended up being okay, but like the chest kind of caved back into her in when they
Ooh.
were doing this scene. She was okay. though.
Oh, the
Oh,
giant
that makes me
Freddy.
like uncomfortable.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and like that's when like we actually it's more than just the little faces. It's like we see actual bodies moving
Oh.
and king.
Yeah.
So Dream Master basically passes the torch from Kristen to Alice. And Alice can bring people into her dreams. And her dad's an alcoholic, and she kind of takes care of her dad, like Nancy took care of her
Nancy,
mom.
yeah.
And basically, there's this thing set in her, I don't know, whatever high school class, where I can't remember the quote. It really is irrelevant, but basically showing evil itself will destroy it is ours, and she's trying because it's a dream and fighting Freddy, and then she just realizes, and she picks up the shard of the window, which is stained glass, and shows him his reflection, and that defeats him. And in the beginning of the movie, where a dog, Kincaid's dog, in a dream, pees on Freddy's grave, brings Freddy back. Okay,
Resurrected
like that's how
by
it thinks. But yeah, but I think it's like the desecration of the grave, right?
Yeah.
So it's no longer holy. Yeah.
Isn't it like fiery pee too? It's literally on
Yes,
fire.
it's literally on fire. That's it. I gotta admit that part's very stupid, but what I'm used to it.
Fire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's how Freddy comes back in Dream Master and is defeated by his own reflection. And
I never thought it was his own reflection. I thought it was because it was cathedral glass. Like it was.
No, they made a big point of
specifically,
evil
like,
seeing
cathedral.
itself.
Yeah,
Oh.
it saw
they-
itself, yeah.
Evil seeing itself is what they said. It was less religious.
I
It
always
wasn't
hung
a big
on to it
church
being a
thing.
cathedral glass.
Maybe it is.
Bottom.
It could
I was
be.
like,
Like, it
oh,
really-
Maybe it's part of
has
it.
to
I
be
don't know.
cathedral
To be fair,
glass.
It really, like, either way, it doesn't really make a difference.
Holy
It's
glass.
whatever.
He's definitely
Holy
coming
glass.
back.
He's
Yeah.
coming back. They're gonna
Yeah.
have to, and then so Dream Child is the Alice again. They're graduating. So when we're going back to thinking killed, she's pregnant, and so I looked this up. Okay, I figured it was the case, but so she's like, why is Freddy able to come back, and why is he able to defeat other people now when I defeated him, and he's going into other people's dreams? He couldn't do that without me being asleep. Which I don't remember it being exactly like that, Alice / screenwriter, but whatever. Is that she finds out she's pregnant, and by like a couple weeks, if that, and her hardly a fetus dreams. It doesn't have a brain.
It doesn't have a brain.
It doesn't even have, they do apparently quite far along. They figure that the baby can dream, maybe, but we don't have the technology to know that now. So in the 80s, they did not have that to know that. But basically, in the movie, the baby is asleep most of the time and dreaming. And then I have that whole weird uncomfortableness where she sees her baby is like a 6-year-old child that I hate. And it's a little bit more disjointed than the fourth one, which was already a little bit more disjointed. There are some
Mhm.
fun kills in it. I love a content warning for ED stuff.
Greta's kill.
Relationship with weight and eating, and Greta is her friend that wasn't in the fourth one. She's just a new
Right.
friend, whatever. She's her mom is super, and in which this changes things. It's a different kind of parenting in the fifth one that I know. All the other ones where before it was more absent parents or parents that are dealing with too much of their own problems to take proper care of their children. This one is more of like parents being too much onto their children. So Greta's mother wants her to be a model and has this photographer coming, and she's like, oh well, you don't eat that way for Vanity Fair, or I can't remember what magazine, like basically gives her daughter an eating disorder because of her looks and is controlling her life. So and so her kill is really upsetting and really cool. Where she's at this fancy dinner table and she's starting to fight with her mother in a realistic way, actually, and where one of the characters are a bit more cheesy in this one, where she's like, I'm not hungry, and her mother's like, aren't you gonna eat? You can't have to eat for this. That's why we diet. So when we have banquets like this, we can eat. And burps her. It's a weird death. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It's like
I love it.
It's very psychologically upsetting in a way that I like. Like it
Yeah.
gets to you. Yeah, like it got to me in that way. And it's
another
fun
one that gets
too.
me. Yeah, I don't like
Yeah.
it.
No, that's a little close for comfort for me too. Like I grew up,
Yeah.
I was a competitive dancer, and I had so many, like, my dance teacher was always like, you can't eat certain things because you have to stay nice and slim. And so my whole life was just like, don't eat this, don't eat that, gotta stay fit, gotta have
The whole
abs.
early 2000s was like that
It's
too.
Yeah, it was like our whole upbringing. It was awful.
Yeah, it's
But
starting
it's
to come
still
back too.
it is.
Makes me
Yeah.
so uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Awful. I still
At
like
least
the
they
kill.
have that. What is it called? They have this new drug now that's no side effects for people with diabetes, which is great.
Oh, diabetes. I thought you were going to say for dying. I'm like, Justine, that's not good.
Well, we had a really, really fucked up time of growing up when it came to, because we were at the height of like American capitalism when it came to food. So, our schools were pushing really bad advice on us, and they still do that. It still happens because of all the government subsidies around our food. So we are raised off of things like Gushers and Kool-Aid, and remember the like Lunchables, Hot Pockets were like lunch.
Juice. I fucking love to. I get it all over myself all the time.
We grew up being raised on eating that stuff. So like a major chunk of our population is very high in diabetes. Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. All of the snack packs, like so we were raised on both the idea that we needed to be super skinny to be healthy, but also being fed things that were very, very high in carbs and sugars for sustenance. Like, so we were just bad.
But it's also like
an addiction.
like especially when we were younger. I can't speak for the environment now. I mean, I'm sure it depends on what circles you are, what age. Like, I'm sure a lot of people our age still have this attitude towards it.
Yeah.
If you're a guy and you're watching what you eat for your own health for whatever reasons, right? Or you're just trying to eat healthier, you want to eat more, nutrient dense food, then you're like, then they would say, oh, well, you're gay. Like, that's a derogatory thing to be. Whether they're like, what does that have to do with my sexuality? And if you're a woman, it's like, oh, well, prissy, you're not a cool girl, like cool thin. Duh. It was like,
oh, I remember feeling really uncomfortable if I didn't eat the salad bar at school. Like if I chose to have a Subway sandwich instead of the salad bar. Like I remember all my friends were all about, we eat salads because salads are skinny girls. Like it's just, I don't know. Anyways, so I see a lot of that coming back though. Especially the cool girl thing that you're talking about, where it's like cool girls like pizza tacos and cheeseburgers, but they also are gym rat, big butts and skinny waists and stuff. Wearing
well, the big butt's even going out now.
Yeah, the big butt is going out. Thank God, because I'll never have.
So like and with women, we're all getting off topic. We'll get back to Freddy, but this kind of really goes into a lot about how Freddy's nightmares are very much the American nightmares, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Is like you had to be fit but not too fit where you look masculine, you know? It's like you have to be just so, where we're like
Yeah.
as we get old, like we don't care anymore because no matter what we do, it's not going to be enough. We don't care.
Yeah. I don't care anymore. I let that go quite a few years ago.
But it's still hard. It's still up
It's
there
still
because
hard.
we're raised with it. We're raised with it. It's
We were.
so
Yeah.
fucked up. So yeah, that would be. I've had like not good relationships with eating growing up. I never had an eating disorder, but that really got to me as an American child
Yeah.
growing up at a certain time, even though it was in the 80s, which wasn't a good time I can imagine either for that stuff. So Greta's death was cool and funny, and I love Chef Freddy. But it also really got to me psychologically. That was when it really started to get to me psychologically again.
I found it very
Super
creative.
It's creative. I
like
get
it.
it. I get it. It felt. See, that was felt to me when Freddy's Dead. The next one after it's not meant to be a satire on the franchise, but it feels like if it were made to be that way, you can read it that way. That's one of the deaths where like it's kind of like that was kind of for me personally was killing the franchise, killing Freddy. Because Freddy, what happened with Freddy is he got like the third one was super popular. He was everywhere, merchandise, music.
Really? Yeah. I don't know. No, it's all of them because I feel like Dream Warriors had one that had or maybe it was Dream Master, the one where he kisses the girl and like sucks her dry.
That
like,
happens twice.
Okay.
It happens in no, if he it happens 3 times. So the fourth one, when it's the bookish girl that is only a little bit in the beginning, that's like body, and that's where she's talking to the girl that likes to work out and has the gym death. And he kisses her I think that's the one you're thinking about. In the school. That got glasses. And that's 4. And there 4 had a director who was Finnish, and a lot of the actors were being really kind of polite, having their own complaints in the Never Sleeps Again documentary. One girl, I think was the gym girl, she's like, yeah, he wanted me to like go out there and hardly anything. I told him I was really uncomfortable about it. He's like, you know, it's a sexy movie. I'm sorry. I'm not maligning the Finnish people or Italian people. I'm not going to try to do an accent. Not that that's a problem, but he's acting like it's not a big deal. He's like, oh, it's a horror movie. It's supposed to be sexy, and I told her, I convinced her to do it. And in the sense of like use like super fake about like the way white people think black people talk, basically.
But she remember saying this. I don't believe
I don't believe that. I do not believe that. I believe her, and luckily they didn't make her do that because she stood her ground. She's like, I'm not doing that. And I was sad that her character died. But that's one of the tongue deaths. There's a tongue scene in the second one, but that's Jesse, so that's not with his friend. So that's not a girl on to Freddy. It's Jesse, and then it happens again It does happen again. His tongue. I just recently rewatched it after not watching. But Freddy's Dead, directed by Rachel Talle, who directed Tank Girl. I love Lori Petty and Tank Girl, but this was her first directorial debut. She'd worked on every single, whether it was she was just working on the budget. She would work in like the budget, and she was like a line producer, so she'd have these small parts in every single Nightmare on Elm Street movie, and she worked on a lot of other movies. It made sense for her to direct this, and I really wish that it was a better movie. It's not terrible, but it is.
There's some memorable deaths. I'm saying
there
are, but it exists in a world. It has again exposition that is just boring that we could have just like filled in the blank. Yeah. It gives Freddy a daughter, which is like it's fine, but it's not terrible. But it's not good. And we don't feel it. Like when she's like, I remember you used to hold my hand when I was a kid, Daddy. I didn't like it then either. It's like, okay, I don't care. But there's the whole cartoon death where it leaves the shape of the guy in it. Like it's literally feels. So basically, Springwood has become this whole like otherworldly place that is ruled by Freddy. he let the kid go because he wants to get his daughter back. I don't know. It really doesn't matter.
I mean, we get Freddy as the Wicked Witch of the Wizard of
that have run, but Roseanne goes up to them. She's like, "Children, we can bring home. I want my children back." Like, we can't have children. They bring him. It's this whole
God.
So his dad changes in this one. It's not the insane people.
Yeah, it's
no, it is
Alice Cooper.
No, what happens? That the extreme backstory that we're given through her going into Freddy's psyche, and this is where we get the official, which we could have gathered, right? That Freddy made a deal with dream demons, and now he's a dream demon. Boom, boom, boom. So we go back that he's the son of 100 maniacs, given up for adoption, and so Alice Cooper's his adopted father. And then he kind of goes off on his own and gets married, and he's a gardener, right? Something like that. I don't know. Even though he's supposed to be the boil room, it doesn't really stay super true to the original canon. But he is Alice Cooper is his adopted father.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, this one is meh.
I've seen it a million times. I mean, I can't really say too much.
That's so memorable for me. The ear one is just that one's worse for me. Like, plus that sound is just horrible. Yeah, that's a horrible sound already. And then you add like him in his ear turning it up and like it making his head explode.
It adds to the campiness too, because Freddy has the blackboard that he expands like a Looney Tunes character. Yeah. It's very much like if they told me that Freddy's dead is it isn't, but even them. But also it kind of represents to me my own personal take. This is not me wanting to trash Marvel again, but to me, Freddy's Dead is like an example of like everything that people are starting to get tired of with Marvel. Is like the cartoonish, like kind of jokey jokes and silly, goofy scenes, and so,
especially with
when I was watching Freddy's Dead,
yeah.
I thought of like Freddy's Dead's way better than Marvel. I'm just kidding, kind of. For me, I rather watch Freddy's Dead. It's shorter, at least,
So that brings us to the final one. Unless you guys want to talk about Freddy versus Jason, which is a guilty pleasure of mine.
It's a great movie. I think that most people love that movie. But New Nightmare, I hadn't seen in a long time.
One of the best scenes, I think, like cinematography wise, happens in Freddy versus Jason of Freddy Krueger, and that's when he launches out of the water onto the dock, and it's all like red lit, and the way he did it so well. He acted it so well with his body that it's unlike the pool scene. He doesn't look like he's being launched off of some weird springboard and like just like barely containing and controlling himself. In Freddy versus Jason, the way his body moves, it looks like he really is supernaturally like launching himself out of the water, and he contains and controls his body so well. I wonder if it's like a stunt actor that they pulled in that time or something, because they had obviously a bigger
Robert
budget.
Englund did do a lot of his own stunts for Freddy versus Jason. He did have a stunt double, but it was one of the more taxing ones, along with, I think, a lot of his own stunts.
But that's what makes me wonder if he didn't, because this one is much later. It's what, 2010? I don't remember. Hold on.
No, before
not that late, right?
Maybe 2003.
Oh,
we could look it up. I have Robert Englund right here.
2003.
Oh, even
earlier. So this was it's funny because this is the height of the remake craze, and then the remake is actually the end of that remake craze that was happening.
Yeah.
But I always get a lot of that area mixed up with time, because a lot of them looked the same. Like they had the same aesthetic. For some of our favorite horror characters in this one, because it's Freddy versus Jason. Kids in this too, and Jason kills kids in this too. The kids are like trying to pit them against each other, and he's not as scary for me when it's like that. He's kind of like, it's like watching a battle. It's more fun. It's not. It's much more fun.
Okay,
but you know what I mean? Like,
who do you guys think won? Because this is
I don't
very
think either
ambiguous.
one. I don't think either
Well,
one
I mean,
would.
Okay.
so they shot it to make it look like whoever you wanted to win could have won. But what are you talking about what the director said about it?
No,
Me?
I'm genuinely thinking what you guys said.
Oh, so the director of Freddy versus Jason, one moment.
Freddy is still alive. Jason is still alive, but there's still an epic battle that's going to ensue because it's in Freddy's world or whatever.
Yeah, I think the wink from Freddy is very. It leaves it so open-ended.
Yeah.
Because it could be anything at that point.
What Ronnie Yu says is that they were supposed to shoot it, and he did to a point of, you're supposed to be able to interpret who you wanted to win one. But he's like, but if you ask me who won, Freddy is what he said. Well, he said in the new night, the Never Sleep Again documentary, that's what he said. But he could have said Jason and other. Maybe he switches it up on interviews.
Maybe
that'd be funny. That would be funny. I'd like that.
That would be.
It would make sense for him to say Freddy in the Nightmare on Elm Street comprehensive documentary that is on YouTube. So, but I like to think Freddy kind of won, but they both. I feel like no one really won or lost.
Funny because he also did Bride of Chucky, which is one of my favorites in that franchise too. I just think he does it well. He does the funny.
He's good at fun.
Yeah. Now in Freddy versus Jason, that's the one with the the caterpillar, right? Freddy caterpillar, where he's all high.
Freddy Pillar. But that's the only one I didn't rewatch, Justine.
I'm sorry.
I didn't rewatch it. I just remember
this is probably the one I've watched the most, to be honest. Oh, Kelly Rowland's so funny in it, actually.
She is. She is.
She's so sassy. It's the stoner in that. CGI is so bad, but it's really funny, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah. Oh, it's so funny. I love that one. I laugh at that one a lot.
It's fun.
But in New Nightmare, since you didn't rewatch that one, in New Nightmare, this to me is the scariest looking Freddy. I think.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh,
the flesh muscled. It's like not. It's like part of him now.
And his eyes.
A decade later. A decade after the release, 1984 of the original, Wes Craven's back, and this was an idea. Heather's back,
and more beautiful than ever. I'm sorry, but she's stunning in this movie.
Oh my god,
shockingly beautiful.
She's somebody I'd walk in the room, I'd be like,
yeah,
I'm not staring. I'm sorry.
I love Heather. I love Heather so much, and I love that
she's a very strong-spoken person. Which some actresses in the horror community are more so I'm thinking of because we've talked about Jamie Lee Curtis a little bit, quite a lot. But I think Heather's very has a lot of opinions, and not all of them I agree with. But she's not. It's fine for people. She doesn't judge people. I feel like she makes judgments about certain decisions in the franchise and has certain feelings about her role in it. But she doesn't judge horror fans. Yeah. And what's something I liked about New Nightmare is they talked to her judgingly if she let her kid watch her movies, the Nightmare movies,
Yeah.
And that becomes a topic, but it's decades later. So this was an idea, the way that they did.
Wait, what did she say? What did she say? Does she let her
in the movie or in real life?
In real life.
I don't think she's ever commented on it. I
thought you were talking about in the documentary.
In the movie. Oh, in the doc, she doesn't. I don't think she has a problem with people. She says she has a lot of kids fans, and you see her sign stuff with kids. She's never said anything negative about it. And in the movie, they make a comment. It's something commented on, which is part of the whole big commentary of this movie. Partially part of it. So this is the idea that Wes Craven wanted to do for the third one, before they decided and did Dream Warriors, which I'm glad we have Dream Warriors. So this is back to the dreams that you don't like. They don't tell you, okay, bloody tricycle, this is a dream, go. It's them luring you into you're not sure if this is real life or a dream.
Did I say Cabinet of Curiosities? I'm sorry. They're correcting me. Yes, the fact that you're right. It's Midnight Club.
Midnight Club, yeah.
I said Cabinets of Curiosities.
Well, there were both anthologies that dropped at the same time, so.
Yeah. I watched them at the same time.
Which a discussion we should have a little bit that would be fun to talk about is, which might never happen, but the fact that Mike Flanagan wants to do a Nightmare on Elm Street, which is crazy. But we
Oh,
can
yeah,
get.
we're gonna touch on that.
It's an old article, but I think it's still there. The desire. You
The
don't
fact
just
that he
drop
worked with
that.
Heather Langenkamp in his last project
Yeah.
adds a little bit of more juice to that.
So New Nightmare, it's the movie within a movie. It wasn't received well when it came out, but now I think it's definitely. I think it's safe to say not every fan, but it's generally considered a fan favorite. And we stronger subtext that is actual subtext and has its strength in visualizing it as opposed to telling us is the idea of New Nightmare is about anti-censorship is basically what Wes Craven was making commentary on. He said he said directly in interviews that a lot of time when people try to censor horror movies, that it kind of just creates a bigger evil, imagining what it could have been, or instead of like there was he mentioned a big thing that happened in the UK where someone murdered somebody and they blamed it on Child's Play 3. So instead of dealing with the systemic issues within society and this young man's life, we're blaming Child's Play 3. Are you freaking kidding?
Like
and
a
that
Fall
creates
Guy, yeah.
Yeah, and it's not, and it creates these problems, this bigger evil. So the idea that because the whole the premise of the movie is that Freddy is becoming this real character. The idea when the story dies, Freddy, this evil, this entity, comes to life. And I also kind of Wes Craven, hasn't made a commentary on it, so I'm gonna read a definition. I don't know if you guys know anything about tulpas. Kind of like the Hat Man. So a tulpa, which is talked about, and I'm not a big paranormal, like I like paranormal stuff, and I don't, I'm agnostic not only in religion but in have strong beliefs in things. I'm open minded, but a tulpa, it's kind of from Buddhist mysticism. It's a magic creature that attains corporeal reality, having been originally merely imaginary. It's a type of thought form capable of independent action with a persistent personality and identity, a kind of modern imaginary friend. A topo, so it's the idea that it's created through thought.
That's what the whole entire Cameron's Closet movie is about.
That's mentioned a lot. I gotta watch that movie because when I was a lot for the whole social media thing, that comes up a lot. What's it called?
Cameron's Closet. It's about a kid who has extrasensory powers of some sort, and his dad is like I think he's an archaeologist. Because I haven't watched it since I was a child, but his dad, I believe, was an archaeologist who's no longer in his life. I think he died or something. But one of the things that he had was this totem of a demon, and the son, the boy with his extrasensory powers, basically unlocks this demon and makes him real, because he has these powers and manifests him in his closet. It's pretty scary.
That sounds good. I gotta see this.
Yeah.
So New Nightmare, it's so on a more surface level thing, and it's we can see that Heather, Robert Shea, who's the producer, and his other sister, not Lynn Shea, but Lynn Shea, I believe is the one where she plays a nurse. She's not playing herself, but and Robert Englund's playing himself and Freddy, or the entity, which is shaped as Freddy. He's playing both roles, and so they're playing them on their lives after this big phenomenon of a movie franchise, and also the impact of horror itself. It's interesting, and so the idea is that Wes is writing a new script. He's asked Heather and Robert to be in the new movie, and she is starting to get these creepy phone calls. Look it up, but the phone calls, the voice, 1, 2, Freddy's coming for you, sounded just like Ghostface in Scream 3, which Scream 3, directed by Wes Craven, the same kind of premise.
With Roger L. Jackson played Ghostface in 3 too? I don't remember who plays the voice. I didn't look this up either.
But it sounds just, if anyone in the chat knows, let us know. But it definitely sounds just like that same voice. Oh, and Amanda Weiss
what's
is
his
back.
Name? Richardson or something? I can't remember his name.
but she's getting these creepy calls and nightmares, and her son is having these nightmares and saying he's seeing Freddy, played by Miko Hughes, who was Gage in Pet Cemetery. I just want to
He's
play
always
with
a
you.
freaky little kid, man. He's always
except in
freaky.
Kindergarten Cop, he plays a normal kid in that one.
Oh, wow, shocking.
But he's a beekeeper now, apparently. Well, not I don't apparently. I don't mean he's a beekeeper now.
Well, he's not credited for it.
So maybe it isn't. Maybe I'm just hearing
he's
something.
credited for Mars
there.
Attacks for the translator device.
Maybe it is Robert Englund doing the voice. It sounded sound. It has, and I do prefer on live together. I've watched the entire Scream franchise and then most of Freddy, except for Freddy versus Jason. And I had so much more fun. I can't wait to talk about Scream next time. But when it comes to Scream 3 versus New Nightmare, it's New Nightmare for sure. Even in that, I feel safe saying that also because they're both Wes Craven.
Yeah.
So, but it's a great movie.
You can compare those movies, huh?
I break my own rules. Of course.
Well,
I think New Nightmare was the
birth
first of Scream. Well, I know it was first.
Oh, yeah.
I'm saying, like, I think that birthed the idea of Scream. I think it's what influenced.
Scream is a better movie than New Nightmare, but I mean, Scream 3 is because of the movie.
Gotcha.
Scream in general, to the point where it ruins it, is that, I mean, HIPAA wasn't like the Health Insurance Privacy Protection Act wasn't really it was officially a thing federally in 1996, but there's so many things that happen in this movie, and I'm like, that would never they can't just adopt, like, without the state getting involved or something. That, like, a mental hospital can't just decide they're keeping her son and then not tell her when he's in the ICU and not let her take him home unless there's some thought that he's not being cared for, you know?
Yeah.
Like, it wouldn't
unless
happen.
There's like Child Protective Services involved.
Yeah, and it's like there's moments where I'm like, this has got to be a dream, but it's not, because it just doesn't work. But they do a lot of callbacks that are cool. One of the coolest callbacks is the murder of a nurse, where Freddy is like standing on the wall and on the ceiling, and it looks just like Tina's death in the first one, but we can see Freddy.
We can see Freddy, yeah.
Cool. And that's when we really start to get it.
Is that the skin the cat joke?
Yes, that's that joke. But yes. So the nurse, who's like, because he's, you know, her kid's been having these dreams. She's like, I don't know, where it's like, you haven't been letting him see your movies, have you? Like, thinking like that's why he has problems. And she's like, no, I don't. And also giving her a look of like, a horror movie's not gonna create this. Like, this is not just a bad dream, you know, this is more than that. And so it's like that idea of blaming a horror movie on other problems isn't the answer. It's like, if somebody has a kid having a nightmare, a horror movie can do that. But creating like psychological damage, unless you're forcing them to watch something you know they're afraid of, it's not going to do that, you know? I mean, I'm not a parent, but I feel like all kids are different. Some kids can regulate things better than others, and I feel like other people shouldn't be telling other people what their kids shouldn't be watching, besides the obvious stuff. Like, you shouldn't, like, I'm sorry if you have. Now you know what I mean. Maybe your kid can process it. They're not paying attention. But I'm just trying to give an extreme example. The Human Centipede. Let's go there. Let's, like, you're not going to show them the Human Centipede 2 at 4 years old. Like, unless it's something that obvious. You know?
I don't, and I just talked about this because I don't censor around my daughter. I let her watch whatever she wants. She watched your short that you made for this, the promo that you made for this, and she said he wasn't scary at all. I'm like,
well, that's a lot of the silly ones is what I did.
But she didn't think he was scary at all. Freaks me out that it's like, I don't believe that this won't scare you. Like, I know sometimes what she's afraid of. Like, she really loves the Evil Dead remake, and you'd think that would be really scary compared to
that's way more frightening in my opinion.
She likes that movie
it's
so
really
much.
Oh, she'll be fine then. She
can watch Nightmare. If she's seen Evil Dead, I think.
Yeah.
Although, you know, it's funny.
She also likes the movie The Witch. She's watched that a few times. She likes that movie.
Wow.
Why?
It's so random.
Like, it's
also
so like
subtle. But
yeah, not just subtle, but like there's not a lot for a kid to be entertained by in that movie. Like that you would think, but she really likes it. She thinks it's creepy.
So I have a friend
likes
who
creepy shit.
has a daughter who is when this moment happened, she was 5. So she's like kind of like my niece, and I was surprised she had seen Halloween, which is fine, and she was fine with it. She's not scared of Halloween, but then she had seen the Simpsons Treehouse of Horror special, like one of the new ones, and the family
Yeah.
with zombies, and that scared her. So you never know what's
never
gonna, it's
True.
very specific to
That's
kids and
true.
specific, like you're like the Nightmare on Elm Street, like that it specifically gets to you. You know, it
Mhm.
I
becomes
forget
more of
what
a
we were
personal
watching
thing.
the other day, but she did say, "Oh, it's too scary." She wanted to watch something else, and I was like, "Is it too scary?" She said, "Yeah, it's too scary." So we watched something else, but
At
she
least
wanted
she
to watch
knows.
it. I don't remember what it was. I'll have to look it up on my Amazon. But she also loves she loves Santa Jaws. That's one that she watches a lot. She likes the really crappy
It
horror
was
movies too.
2022 wrap up,
Armageddon. Yeah,
Nordica recommendation. I think we should do Nordica
yeah,
recommendations. She's a horror fan,
yeah.
so
She also really likes Monster Squad. So that's one that we watch a lot. So
well,
she
that's
loves
like
Monster
horror for
Squad.
kids. It's
It
fun.
is. It is. So I get excited when she loves ones like that because it warms my heart. She likes it because of Dracula, I think. So I want to try to get her into Dracula movies, like the old monster films, like the old Hammer and the old Universal ones. Because I want to see if she'll be into them because they're also Dracula. We'll see. We'll see. But yeah, I think it'll be fun to do like we'll have to add it to our show where I'm like, okay, so these are the movies that Nordica watched. Here's her new favorite
Yeah.
horror movie. And see what she
And
says.
she's got varied taste. She loves the new the Evil Dead reboot and The Witch. You know, I like
Yeah.
The Witch. I like,
Very,
you know,
very well, yeah.
So,
I always am like, it might be too scary. And she's like, I'm not scared.
yeah,
She gets real tough about it.
the new Nightmare look. Did you
Hopefully
guys
she'll
want to
tell
say
me.
anything else about New Nightmare before we
No,
talk
I'm
about
good.
Flanagan?
No, let's talk about
Uh,
Mhm.
yeah, let's talk about Flanagan.
We could always circle back if we want to.
Yeah, let's talk about Flanagan.
So I don't remember even how I found this. It's from 2019. It's hardly even an article. It was basically that. So what's happened with the Nightmare on Elm Street? In 2015 is when Wes Craven died. R.I.P. Very sad. We miss you, Wes Craven. So after he passed away, and also with the passage of time, like 35 years, I think it is. You know, they were bored, they were teenagers. He's like, here, we need a lead boy, why don't you join us for that, and you read with the boys. And they're like, okay. And she picked Johnny Depp. She's like, if you don't pick Johnny Depp, I'm going home. So we can blame her for like the shenanigans.
She thought
No,
he
I'm
was
just kidding.
beautiful. She
Well,
said
he
was so
was.
beautiful. Yeah.
You know, he looks like
He's
a baby.
heartthrob.
Well, he was. He was a baby. But this before 21 Jump Street. So there was also certain aspects of being a father, like when you become a parent, it kind of brings a perspective, and he talks about that a little bit with New Nightmare and when he became a dad. And there are also certain aspects that he thought of with the heroine, more so. Wes Craven's mother was widowed when he was like about 5 or 6, and he was terrified of his father anyway. And his mother made a lot of sacrifices in her own life to take care of her kids. So that's something that kind of exists in Nancy, and they talk about that. And so so getting this interview from the I Am Nancy documentary that I watched on YouTube, I like his daughter, who I assume is one of the bigger parts of the people. So they were then, because like Mike Flanagan could attach himself to any project. I'm like, yes, please. Puppet Master
to the silly stuff as much. I wonder,
I think he probably
would
want
do
to
the
honor Wes
remake with
Craven.
Joe. Like,
I think he'd do his own take-ish. Like, I think he would not do New Nightmare itself, but kind of go that direction without it being a movie within a movie, but about maybe teens again. I think he'd want to honor Wes's vision more than anything, would be from the way he wanted to honor Stephen King's vision with The Shining and Dr. Sleep. And he's very respectful of other people's work, and still is able to bring himself to a project. He's so talented.
I feel like he would lean into the psychology and the subconscious side of it a lot more, and like especially the guilt and all of the
and knowing
trauma.
all your secrets, all of the things you
Yeah.
hate about yourself, and using it against you.
Yeah, I feel like he would make it scarier for sure. I
And
don't think it would be
sadder.
like the
In an
remake
intentional
Oh,
way.
yeah.
yeah, I think the remake, yeah, I think it would be sadder. And I think that if he did that, it couldn't be as silly. Like it couldn't have as many of the jokes and stuff. It would just be really scary. And I don't know. I don't know. I think it would be good. I think a lot of people would not like it because they would probably compare it to the remake and be like, it went serious like the remake. Stupid.
I
But I
think,
just
but as you said earlier, remake is so universally hated. Some people like
Yeah.
it, but no one loves it. That
Yeah.
I think that it'd be pretty hard for people to even think anything is like it. Like I think that something is enough like it that the like it fucked up first, so it's always going to be the one that like.
I
sucks
feel like
more.
if Mike Flanagan did do it, he needs to tell nobody. He needs to tell everybody nothing.
Yeah.
And
Nobody
not listen to
nothing.
anybody, like do his thing, which he does anyway. But I would
But I
love
mean,
to
like,
see
don't
it.
even tell people. Don't tell people I'm gonna do this kind of a take on it. Don't hint towards anything that you're gonna do
Yeah.
at all. Because the minute he says something like, I'm gonna do a scarier take, or I'm gonna do a very grounded, scary
Yeah.
take, or I'm gonna do a gothic, scary
be a
take, or a ghost story
preconceived-
take,
Yeah.
people will immediately be like, hate it. I think they're gonna
Yeah.
like hate on it because they're gonna think of the remake and how it was trying to be scarier, even though it was hollow. It was a hollow scary. It was not like what Mike Flanagan does, where he dives real deep into like the humanity of things.
Mhm.
I think it would be so scary if Mike Flanagan did it.
Yeah. I think so too.
You know, I have
I
a
think it would be
moment.
one of those movies that would actually scare me for in a while. Like
Yeah.
And maybe
he
like
does
rattle
it,
you for a week. Like you're like,
it would
hope.
really mess me up, I think, because Haunting of Hill House did. Haunting of Hill House
Yeah.
got into my bones and scared me for a while. It was a show I could not
all
watch
the ghosts in
by
the
myself in
background.
the dark.
Imagine
Like,
him doing that with the dreams. Oh my god! Or like,
Oh, I
like
would
even if it's not
love
with
just
that.
having
Freddy.
Freddy Krueger in the background of dreams, and they're just dreams that we're in, and we don't even realize
Cool.
he's there yet.
That'd be
Oh,
fun.
like, just things
'Cause
are
people are-
slowly changing. Like as he's
Yeah.
People are
reflecting and
already going to
learning
make
about them.
assumptions about it because it is Mike Flanagan, and we know he loves monologues.
We know his style too.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think there
Oh,
is
his
one.
monologue.
I love him.
Yeah.
Yeah, they would fit so well with this story
They
too.
would.
two of the most Mike Flanagan moments, because after I read that, I watched the first one and third one after. So the ones that kind of register with me is like Mike Flanagan moments is when Nancy tells her everything's gonna be okay.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
when Nancy dies in the third one, and Kirsten came back in Midnight Club. He loves her. We did the whole thing with Mark Patton, who's might be too sick to come back, but for his GoFundMe. I think
Apology part, the humanity part, more than he would right now. The Nightmare on Elm Street franchise is a Freddy Krueger franchise. It's a Freddy Krueger franchise. It's all about Freddy Krueger, his charisma, him as like a silly, very fun villain. Like he's horrible. He's a horrible person. We love him. Like
yeah.
Mike Flanagan, imagine it. But also, I don't think I would want a Mike Flanagan silly villain. I would
I
want to
definitely think
see
he'd go New
him
Nightmare route where the entity wasn't
go
silly
real
at all.
humanity, real character driven, real like in your feelings, in your gut,
I want
dark and deep. Yeah.
Yeah.
DJ
would be
Kento
so
asked a
scary.
good question. Would you bring back Jackie Earle Haley, recast, or Robert Englund? I think after the I liked Jackie would do a good job again, but I think after the remake tanks so far away from it, Robert Englund has gone back and forth on whether he feels like he could do it again. He's 72, which isn't old, but you know, he's
scary. It was not Freddy Krueger at all. So I know he's a good actor.
He could do Shakespeare. He's very good.
He's
like
very
he
good
does a
skilled
lot
actor.
of campy characters, but
and maybe he could do a Mike Flanagan version of Freddy Krueger, but it would not be the Freddy Krueger that we know him as. And I think that it would be unnecessary to cast him in that role. Instead, just
if you rewatch New Nightmare, you could see it because he is like totally not
I have
the Freddy we're used to. I know you have seen it, but
I
like
know.
I hadn't
Well,
seen
yeah,
it.
no, he's
It's
different.
totally
He's much
different feel.
scarier. He's the scariest Freddy in that one. But I still feel like he's still too I don't think that
Oh no,
I don't
and
think
I think that's a good. I think it's a good move too.
so I feel like what we would find is someone he's going I don't even know if we'll see version. He
Freddy's
does
not a
very
lot.
but I could see more of like, I don't know, the way that he had what was that character in Gerald's game called again?
The Moonlight
Moonlight
Man.
Graveyard Moonlight Man. The way the
Mhm.
Moonlight Man is where he's almost just a shadow in the beginning, and then when he shows up, it's very startling. And he is very imposing character, and like the actor himself is very scary. That I get. I could see him doing something between that and the bent neck lady and the hat man that he had in Hill House. Or I can see him going into something very much like Rose the Hat, where it's very scary. She is terrifying and talked a lot. Doing something like that with a Freddy
Like she
Krueger
was a
character.
little cheeky, but not cheesy.
She
you
was
know?
cool, like
Mhm.
scary and cool, evil, like just absolute evil, but like so cool. If he could do a Rose the Hat style Freddy Krueger, I would be on board with that in a heartbeat. I just don't know how I just don't know. I just can't picture it.
Yeah.
Like,
And
I
again,
know.
so
It's hard.
interesting idea. Did the idea since it's a lot of commentary. It's the evidence isn't from the mouths of babes. It isn't from the kids. But the adults think they figure out that he's the guy that's killing the kids, and he isn't. And so he's
Yeah.
killed and comes back for revenge, but he
also kind of traumatized and going through their own trauma the way he did with Hill House, where like one of them has an addiction issue. So now he's punishing them so that they're not their parents. They don't become their parents, but also punishing their parents by punishing the kids, like the sins of the father thing. I could see him doing something like that, and that would make sense.
definitely.
And you could still make Freddy Krueger be a horrible person and guilty, but also shining a light on how you are also the parents. Like you are also not right. Like you also did things. You also had sins. Like maybe one of the parents beats his kid, and that's why the kid never wanted to talk to him about what was going on with Freddy Krueger. I don't even need there to be child pedophilia. I just want it to be more of like a grabber situation.
It's not.
Where,
well, the grabber was a pedophile, but
again,
the
it's not like
teenager.
I don't have to hear about it. I don't have to see it. You could just make it out like
there's-
he's kidnapping and killing these kids because they're vulnerable because the parents suck. That kind of a thing.
Well, since you
I would
brought up
rather have
Black
that.
Phone, I'm not going to talk about it.
Oh
on
my
live,
God.
okay? She brought it up. I did not.
Since you wrote black.
No, well,
Way to go.
I mean, they're not similar. They're like, but the idea that movie is about a guy that kidnaps, just pubescent boys, and we know what he does. We don't need to go into it. But when they this in particular didn't happen to me, but it's a thing that like is the whole which I mentioned before, when Nancy is in a little girl's dress and she can't move and she's on the bed and he's acting like it's a game, and this is in the remake, the 2010, and it's like, because that's what a lot of when that stuff happens. I'm not gonna go deep into it, but I'm gonna talk about a tiny bit. Is the adult is usually a trusted adult year round, and it's a game. They make it a game or our secret, and they say, and they're not gonna go any deeper than that. And they say and do that a lot in the reboot, where it's like, I'm uncomfortable because it's too real, but they didn't. So they brought up they used these really real methods and brought up this topic, and then it's just
attached it to a boogeyman though, and that's not how it is.
No, and it's also they also say things that are really weird in the sense of like they keep telling Nancy, "Oh, you were his favorite." That is not an appropriate thing to say, even though she doesn't remember it until later. It's like, you wouldn't say that like you wouldn't say that to your child, like, "Oh, you were the molester's favorite." That is a weird thing, right, Crystal? Right. They say that multiple times. That is, I know, like they want to, like the movie touches upon these very serious matters that brings up very uncomfortable things for people. Only it feels like they're like it's deep, but it really just ends up being shock value because it says nothing about it. It does nothing with it, and it sucks.
So I would prefer to see it more of like parental trauma and them like being just very similar to the way Stephen King tells stories about how, you know, the parents aren't necessarily evil per se, but their lack of parenting or their apathy to their children, or their actual being bad, like beating their children or whatever, how that is the real evil. And it's not just, you know, Freddy Krueger. It's the fact that the parents either didn't listen to their kids, didn't care enough about their kids, that contributed to it. You know, I don't want to say like all parents should be at fault for when their kids are victimized in any way. That's not what I'm saying at all either. Because sometimes,
well, it's like the dad in Black Phone is another example of that. You know, like
exactly.
Like
I think Black Phone did that very well. Yeah, because why would they trust their dad? Their dad was also beating them, and it's not someone that they would run to for help. They walked
They only had
home,
each other as other children. Like they felt like they had no adult to run to.
Right. Right.
You know, and maybe Freddy wouldn't have gotten as close to an adult magician when, you know, with a big black man in the middle of the day. You know,
yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah. So I would like to see that happen in the Flanagan one. If he's going to go dark, I would like to see him get more into the human side of it and not worry so much about Freddy Krueger. He's a vessel for this evil. He's just he's the weapon. But I like Flanagan's style, and I think he's so good at touching humanity and trauma and guilt and in such a horrifying way. I feel like Flanagan is one of those people that the reason why the remake was so bad is because the person who made it was hollow. It hollowed it out. It felt like a cash grab. When we talk about remakes being cash grabs, that's exactly what we're talking about, that film. And Flanagan loves horror.
Even fun.
He lives, breathes, loves horror. And I could see him very much putting in something. Every bit of his projects feels like it has so much heart in it that it rips my heart out. Every time I watch one of his stuff, like any of his stuff, I cry. Like every single time.
I think with the Wes Craven estate, we have a chance for Flanagan or someone similar doing a certain take on it, especially somebody they know is going to treat their father's work and property with respect and isn't just looking to make a fun like if a fun slasher is okay, but like, you know, 2010 reboot.
So Midnight Club was probably one of the weaker of his of his works. And I'm not gonna lie, it's not bad. I loved it. I loved Midnight Club.
Oh, it's not bad. It's
when you compare it to his other works, it's definitely the weaker, and you could actually very quickly tell which ones he had the most hands-on with. In those first 2 episodes showed me that he could handle working with a property that had kids as the stars. Not to mention working on Dr. Sleep with that one kid, Turnbley.
Jacob Tremblay.
Jacob Tremblay. And then Before I Wake also gives us a little insight on how he handles dreamscapes and nightmares, and I think he'd just be great. I think it'd be great. Do you guys think any of his current like actor family, what would they do in a Nightmare on Elm Street?
I don't know what any of them would do, but I want to see Raoul Coley. I want to see Samantha Sloyan. I want to see Hamish Linklater because I just love him. I would like to see him bring back so many people. But
I would not related to Robert Linklater, is he?
To be honest,
the filmmaker. He's not related to Robert Linklater, is he?
I don't know. Actually,
I don't know.
Interesting. Yeah. That's a specific name.
I could see all of his like main crew being like the parents in it or something like that. I would love
Dr.
to see
Sleep
Heather.
Showed us that he's also really good with like the actress who played Rose the Hat, and also you know, Ian McGregor. They weren't part of his working family, but he's so good incorporating them into it. You know, other they wanted.
Yeah, and Rahul Kohli was a later installment to his family too.
Was he in Midnight Mass?
He was Bly Manor, I believe, is when he started.
Bly Manor. Okay, that's right. Yeah.
And he's also going to be in the Fall of House of Usher. I don't know know
When
why
are
that
we
was
getting
so
that,
hard
by
to
the
get.
way?
That was a Usher. I was
This
saying
year. Oh, now it's time for our rapid fire ranking of the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise, which I love and get very excited about. And I know you
You
guys
go
do.
first, because I need time to think. I have to get them all in front of me.
Me go first? Okay. So in ninth is the remake. I really don't like it. I wish I did. There's some really touch and go moments that are okay. I love Kyle Gallner and I love what's his face who did Freddy. I think those two were stars of
Jackie
it.
Earle Haley, yeah.
And then I have Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare. In seventh, I have A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2, Freddy's Revenge. In sixth, I have Dream Child. Fifth, I have Dream Master. A lot of these are based off of the deaths. That's
what the fourth and fifth one mostly are on, like, they're built around the nightmares and the deaths, but Alice is a strong character. I'm an Alice fan.
Yeah. Fourth, I have New Nightmare. I love meta horror. You guys already know that about me. So that one is really big to me. I really like it. 3 is Freddy versus Jason. I love that movie so much. I watch it so much. So it's really high on my list. Now, okay, objectively, it's not like one of the better films. It's probably not the third best, but it is, in my opinion.
I love it. It's fun. It's a very solid movie.
2, I have the original Nightmare on Elm Street, and number 1, of course, is Dream Warriors.
The Dream
I feel like ours is similar. Our ranking is kind of similar, but not.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
You go next. You go next.
So my ninth place is the remake as well. The next place, Freddy's Dead, same as yours. But then I change it up a little bit. I do Dream Child next.
Ooh.
And then Dream Master.
Oh.
And then I put Freddy's Revenge, number 2. And then it's Freddy versus Jason. That's pretty high up on my list, actually. I do really love that movie.
It's so fun.
Now, this is where I get a little bit finicky because I could switch these two, but for this ranking, as of right now, because I got thrown into it, I'm gonna put New Nightmare in third.
Okay.
And then I'm gonna say Dream Warriors, but I would maybe switch those because I love New Nightmare. I really do.
Yeah.
It's hard. They're different.
It is hard, and I do love the meta aspect of New Nightmare so much. Like Wes Craven, king of meta.
King.
And then I'm putting the original as number 1. The original is like, I don't know. It's the one I've watched the most. It just feels nice when I watch it. So it has to go number 1 for me.
So my list isn't going to be, it's pretty standard. There's no shocking things on my list. Excuse me if I get mixed up here. So Dead Last is the reboot. I mean, it's not terrible, but it adds things that are upsetting, and it's just not fun. It's not even fun. Next is Freddy versus Jason, and I love Freddy versus Jason, but as a Nightmare on Elm Street movie, it's not as strong as a Nightmare on Elm Street movie. Then Freddy's Dead. Again, not terrible. I've seen it a lot. I've rewatched it a lot. It has some of the best Freddy jokes. But as a full movie, it's like when you're watching it, it gets you're like over it before it's over.
Yeah.
But I love all the fun cameos. So even though it's second to last, I still like it. So then I would have Dream Child because it has a lot of great kills, but that whole 6-year-old like, you don't want me, mommy thing really kills it for me. It kills the movie. Then I guess I would have Dream Master. It has a lot of great kills. I really love it, even though it obviously, you could tell they didn't have a script, and it's mostly a vehicle for the nightmares. Do get a little upset that they killed off our surviving 3 kids from Dream Warriors. It felt like a very big FU.
Yeah.
Next, I have New Nightmare. Third, I have Freddy's Revenge. I love how gay it is. It has some effects that aren't as good, but it has some really, like when Freddy bursts out of Jesse's chest. Awesome. I really love Freddy's Revenge. I'm glad that it's getting more love. So what I got left is Dream Warriors and number 1. And I can't pick between 1 and 3. I got 1, the original creates the whole thing. I guess I have to go 3 is number 2, and then 1 is number 1. It's one of the best horror movies ever made. It's definitely one of the best slashers. It changed things, man. I really kind of put them both at a tie.
Yeah.
I mean, they're
Yeah,
different.
they're really close for me too. I think
Me
maybe like
too.
a half a star difference.
Okay.
So let us know in the comments what your franchise rankings are. Follow us on YouTube, follow us on Twitch. We film this live on Twitch, so you get the whole unabashed version in all its glory. It's all in our link tree. So is our Instagram, our TikTok. Down there, we have Instagram, TikTok, Twitch, and YouTube. So make sure you go like, share, and subscribe to all of those. Join our Patreon if you want to be a part of the Patreon. We have a few people who just got merch from that. So let us know in our Discord, guys. Did you guys get your merch for that yet? I want to hear it. I want to hear how it looks. I want to
Because
see
we
it.
don't get it.
Yeah.
We don't get it.
Yeah, we don't get
We don't get merch.
It has my face on it.
Yeah.
Our face is on it. We don't get it.
But
Insane.
all of them get access to our Discord for Slasher Chat. You guys could also join our Discord for free. You just won't be part of the Slasher Chat where we talk to you guys more openly about some stuff like our secret crushes and stuff.
Oh no, we talk about there are no secret crushes. We talk about them very openly. None of there's no. I talk about my Finsta on there.
We're
like,
we're very unabashed in
and
there.
my Pinterest like suggested thing, which we're not going to mention right now. But
join Slasher Chat, join our Patreon, and you guys can hear all about that stuff.
But I just want to mention our Slasher Chat is going to, which is a new thing we're incorporating into our more generalized episodes format, where we each will pick one movie, like whether the subject is, let's say, mad scientists, and then
which you guys also get to vote on usually. So.
In the Slasher Chat will get to vote on what movie they want us to add to that episode. So that'll be a bonus into the Slasher Chat.
The Patreon pick is the 4th film that we'll watch and discuss.
You can make us watch almost anything.
Click all those links below. They're all below. The linky links. Let us know in the comments your favorite from the franchise. What's your favorite Freddy Krueger kill? Also, I want to know that. I specifically want to know that because I love the kills. My favorite's the veins one, hands down. The one that effed me up the most though might be the sausage one, meatball, whatever it is. Anyways, so thank you for joining us. Until next time.
We love you next time. No running in the hall.